Hey there, fellow Wargamers. It's your man, it's the Sentinel from across the tabletop. It's a Friday evening. I wanted to drop a quick update on an RTT that I'm attending this weekend. So tonight, I want to just reference Oxford. I put a post up of that, how I did up the GT. Came out 8th, so really pleased with that. Top Codex Marine player there. So even, yeah, 8th isn't great, but top Marine player, top Codex Marine player, I was quite happy with. That I still beat like the non-compliant codexes. I still beat the Blood Angels, Space Wolves, and Dark Angels. So I was quite happy with that. Unfortunately, the Grey Knights were just above me. So the list that I'm taking to the RTT at the weekend, it's a slight change. I haven't had a real chance to test it really. A little bit upset with the test runs I've had with it so far, but it is what it is. So here we go. It's an Arks of Omen, 2,000 points. Start with 3 CP, still all the same. It's still the heavy support slot I've chose as well, because I'm using those gladiators plus a couple of devastator units. So I dropped the servitors and I played a couple of test gun runs, and they are definitely back in my new list. So sorry about the servitor lovers out there, but they went in this one and they're going to come back. I've got Rites of War on my Primaris Techmarine now instead of the Fleet Master, which was the orbital bombardment. I just never remembered it, and the one time I did, I rolled a 1-inch for the explosion range and then rolled a 1 to do any mortal wounds. So it was just like, okay, Rites of War gives me a little bit more of a board control at the back without the third troop choice. I've gone with a standard Techmarine with a Combi-melta and a power axe and the servo-harness, and then Tor Garadon. So that's 3 characters that allow me to give +1 to my vehicles, and Tor Garadon +1 to anybody. But yeah, three characters, and Tor Garadon is a bit punchy as well as the other characters. All the characters are quite punchy with their AP 2 damage weapons. Okay, so troop choices. I had a heavy intercessor unit, they're now gone, and I've just kept the 2 infiltrator units for that board control in the middle. Possibly 1 board control, 1 going into reserve, and then doing data if I need to, or behind enemy lines. But what I found my best use of these is to be really aggressive and deploy them up 9 inches away from the deployment zone and roll the dice to go first and behind enemy lines. But if that doesn't happen, they still are very useful. I kept the Leviathan, still up in the air about this at the moment. Did really well at the tournament, but haven't had as much luck against heavy shooty marine armies. So Leviathan, twin Volkite for the nipple guns, 300 killer missiles, 1 storm cannon array, and then 1 Leviathan siege drill with the melter in the middle of his gun. But that just gives me the replacement for the it's a replacement for the Redemptor, so it still hits hard in combat, and it's got just as much shooting and a little bit more reliability in shooting, because it's just a plasma D6 shots. You just never know. And it doesn't overcharge, don't kill itself. I've got the 2 units of scouts, been absolutely fantastic in the armies, and the units have been playing with them. They're always guaranteed to get me 9 points at least, if not more. So it's usually around the 8 to 10 points they get me. But they're just absolutely amazing in the list with the free upgrades they get. Then in the fast attack slot, I'm taking a land speeder Typhoon over the attack bike. A little bit more movement, because of the position you put them in the board. Generally you can't get to the middle for what's that secondary? Oath of Moments, and you have to advance then the attack bikes to get on there. But with this, because it's got fly, you can just put it behind a vehicle and just jump over the building, which the attack bikes can't. So this just gives me that flexibility for Oath of Moments if I'm going second, to throw that unit in there. It's still relatively easy to kill, but if it moves, it can still shoot. Where I was finding when I advanced the attack bikes to get Oath of Moment, I couldn't shoot them. So it's like 100 points doing nothing, but at least the land speeder Typhoon will allow me to still get into the middle, get the Oath, and shoot. So yeah, that's why that changes there. I mean, deploying the attack bikes in a better position so they can get to do Oath of Moments would be better, but generally that means deploy them on the line in the open, and if you don't get turn 1, they just get shot off the board, because it's the only thing they can be seen to be shot at. Then 2 units of suppressors, been absolutely doing the job amazingly. Always putting 1 in deep strike for behind enemy lines, because of the scouts need to come on still 9 inches away. At least the threat of the deep striking unit is still there, and it means that I can go anywhere with them and not forced to be on an edge. So if I need to be a little bit more aggressive in the middle, they can do that, and they're great for screening. That one unit I used for that screen into the middle or into a flank just to protect something had a little bit longer, a little buffer. So that's what they're doing for 90 points. Devastator unit, I've got 2 of those. I got one with well, the Sergeant's got Combi-melta Thunderhammers, and then I've got one with a plasma cannon, 2 plasma cannons, 2 las cannons. So that's the battlefield sat on an objective. And then the other one is the 2 multi-melters, 2 las cannons, and they go in the drop pod, potentially. I have talked to friends about it now, and I think just having the drop pod in the list makes people think. But when it comes to putting something in it, then dropping it on the board, they just die. So I might just have the drop pod not turn up and just not put anything in it, and just lose 70 points of the army, because it's not doing anything at all realistically. -1 to shoot then with the weapon systems. They don't generally do anything. So I'm tempted in some games, so they're not even putting anything in the drop pod. I've got 3 eradicators. You know, I need that punch to come on from the side to kill that one unit. Or for this list, I think, especially for this list, because I had the heavy intercessors sat at the back, they now sit at the back with the Techmarine and get Rites of War, so they can get OBSEC. And they're a sort of replacement, but they're more deadly if something comes closer. I don't have the range. They are the heavy melta rifles, so they're D6 plus 2 at full range and D6 plus 4 at half range, which means I get an extra 1, which is amazing. I'm not too sure how to use those yet. I'm still playing with those because the Arks environment changes. The Gladiator, 2 Gladiator Reapers and a Gladiator Valiant. And the Gladiator Valiant, well, we know what the Reapers do. They're just anti-everything. Amazing -2, 1 damage weapons. You know, it's 40 shots essentially there with that. With the bolters and the Icarus rocket pod and the heavy stubber. We've got the Valiant to replace the Executioner. Now, the Executioner did something really well. It had one really big gun that you shot at something and you potentially tried to kill it. But it was only a D6 shots, and very, very rarely that I got the 6, and more occasions I got 1 or 2 or 3 shots, which just wasn't enough to kill whatever I was targeting. Yes, it's got a little bit longer range, but with the movement, the Valiant, with the 10-inch move, you still got that threat range essentially. And the Valiant has 8 shots, it's a guaranteed 8 for multi-melta shots and 4 las cannon shots. So it just makes sense. It's also got the Icarus on there as well, so that's also 3 damage against vehicles. I know it's a multi-shot, but you're looking at 9 shots now at strength 7, if not strength 7, 8 and 9. And then the heavy stubber just to clear up that one unit that you're trying to focus fire down with the Gladiator Reapers to kill. And then the drop pod for the Devastator units. That's the list. The changes is the extra Devastator unit over the heavy intercessors because of the points. And then the other change is the heavy eradicators and the Executioner over the drop pod and the servitors. We also had a few points left over for the attack bites, which then freed up more points for the Devastators. So that's the sort of list that I've got currently that I'm working on. I've been played a few games now and it hasn't gone as helpful as I'd want to. So let's have a quick look at the list. I'll show you the list. I've put it together now. I've had 40, the last 24 hours it's been very hectic because I've been obviously painting the Valiant and putting the stickers on everything. So essentially, as you can see now, the list has had the Executioner change for the Valiant, and then we went with the Infiltrators are still there. We went with the heavy eradicators and the 2 suppressor units. What else do we do? We've got another Devastator unit and the drop pod and the land speeder Typhoon. Now the Typhoon has the multi-melta and assault cannon. It's relatively the same sort of output as one attack bike when you think about the bolter shots, but it does give me that AP2 strength, AP2 strength 6, 1 damage, so it's another 6 shots like the Gatling from the Reapers essentially. So the way that this army works compared to the last one is virtually the same. All I'm trying to do now is tweak it slightly so we can maximize our efficiency to deliver the secondaries to the maximum points. So the list is designed to score 100 and then you minus because your opponent, so it should score anywhere between, well sorry, the list has potential to score 100. That's what you're trying to always achieve, potential, and then you can take in the factor of your opponent and play in mission to drop around about the 20. So if I'm not hitting the 80 marks in this one, then there's something terribly gone right, and the dice gods are not on my side, and my opponent just is amazing. Like I said, Techmarine is going to be the HQ of my Tor Garadon, backs it up, and then the Techmarine. So we got a unit of infiltrators that sit in the middle if they can. I mean, Abandoned Sanctuary is part of the mission, so that's annoying. And then the other one now, because I haven't got the heavy intercessors, will sit a little bit further back onto an objective if necessary, with the scouts in outflank still. It depends on how many models they've got. So like I said, scouts in outflank, the drop pod with a Devastator unit in, and it'd be the Melta one. The suppressors, one of them in deep strike, that gives me that 12-inch move from my deployment zone without having to advance anything to get onto an objective, because most objectives, depending on the terrain that you're putting on the table, will be 9 inches away from your deployment zone. So you've got to have something that is reliable, that doesn't require a advance roll and you roll a 1 like many of my dice rolls, that to get on there comfortably, hide if necessary, and if even better, to put some fire down on something. So that's what the suppressor unit does. And like I said, the Leviathan sits and replaces the Redemptor as that counter threat. And this list played very well the other day against a Chaos army, but the drop pod, like I said, was useless in the sense of it was Abandoned Sanctuary and I couldn't get it in his deployment zone, and it ended up coming in my deployment zone, which meant that the weapon systems in there couldn't fire anything apart from the 2 las cannons, and it was pointless. So for the future, this is what's going to happen. We're going to drop the drop pod, and we're going to put a Razorback with twin las cannons in. We're going to drop the Devastator unit, because without the drop pod we don't need it, and we're going to have 3 las cannons, Devastator unit, the Razorback. The Servitors are going to come back because they're amazing, and then the Land Speeder Typhoon goes. Yeah, that gives me the unit to sit at the back with the Servitors, with the Techmarine. It gives me the Rhino, that, like I said, that the suppressors would normally do, which is advance onto the objective in the middle and hold it. And with the Typhoon gone, it also frees up another fast attack slot for a 3rd unit of suppressors. So you put 2 in deep strike now and have 1 on the table, so you can at least have the Razorback, the suppressors move onto a flank to take the objective, which allows your gladiators then to have a unit to charge the midfield, and then the gladiators then can get in range and just absolutely annihilate them without moving too far forward and being picked off by other units that you don't want them to. This does mean that one of the infiltrator units now has to protect the gladiators. So essentially you put 2 gladiators on the board, 1 in reserve, depending on what army you're going up against. I would suggest, if it's a vehicle heavy army list, you put the Lancer in reserve, and if it's an infantry heavy, you put the gladiator in reserve, the Reaper. And this just gives you the flexibility then to put onto any board edge and take that squishy unit down that you need to. And the reason why I say that is you still need to get the angles on these units, and sometimes when you deploy you might have just messed up the angle, and if you stick something in reserve, at least you can then bring that on and get the angle. And remember, you can still come on your backfield edge. So I did the other night with this list, because I changed it slightly over the drop pod, I played a Night Lord's army, put one of the Reapers in reserve and brought it on my own battlefield edge next to Tor Garadon. Yes, he didn't get the benefits from him, but he was able to pick him up the following turn, and I was able to use that firepower with another Gladiator Reaper nearby to clear up the, what are they, Possessed? Yeah, the Possessed. So it's absolutely huge to be able to put something in reserve, not get shot at. It doesn't upset your deployment zone, and you can then bring it on where you want. The heavy Eradicators turn to a 4-man unit instead of a 3, so that gives you more shots. Again, still got the heavy melter rifles on there, so that range and that damage is immense. And then in the Devastator Squad itself, you take away the 2 plasma cannons because you don't need them now. Put the las cannon and the multi-melter back in, with the Sergeant carrying his Thunderhammer and Thunderhammer and Combi-melta. Yeah, and then he goes in the Razorback. And you can't ignore a twin las cannon Razorback with another 3 las cannons in there and a multi-melter with the Cherub. in the middle of the board. You just can't ignore it. So it brings a lot of threat that you can control where your opponent goes to deal with. And that's what you want. You want board control and you want board presence. And because the Razorback is such a big model in the sense of what you're going up against, it can be great for using that blocking, the screen blocking. A bit like what a drop pod can do. It can screen when it comes in and stop it like an angle or an arcway or something trying to get through a gap. The Razorback does that 10 times better. With a unit inside as well. You know, he charged it. He charged the Razorback. He killed the Razorback. The unit emergency disembarked, and I was 2 inches away from his deployment zone. The Sergeant survived after, you know, some attrition, attacks and all that sort of thing. Came around and killed his Librarian, this Chaos Librarian. Yeah, the Chaos Librarian with his Combi-melta, multi-melta. So, Combi-melta, not multi-melta, the Combi-melta. So that was amazing. So you have potential there with the flexibility of the unit inside. Even if they get wrapped and trapped, the vehicle does. And then I was trying to achieve basically with the Sergeant surviving behind enemy lines with another model. And he had to then send another model back to go kill the Sergeant, which meant that he wasn't attacking my lines with another unit. There's loads of potential, loads of fun to have with the models now in the unit, and the movement on them are much, much better. And I really enjoy playing the list at the moment. So that's the change. That's the new list I'm potentially going to be submitting with a few modifications probably. I'm even sad, guys. I'm even thinking about getting another Gladiator and having 3 Reapers and 1 Lancer, 1 Valiant, just because of the how cool they look on the table now. And it might be the Leviathan that gets dropped to do that because of how cool they are. I think they're really cool. They're really fun. They have some movement. They have so many shots, and they do look good on the table, yellow and black with the red. So I can't complain. That's the list. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you read that breakdown. Back on to not my list. So got pairings out. We are going to be playing Clement, Tornad, and if you watched any of my reviews, this is the gentleman that won the Oxford GT that we attended with his Unari. He took out Sid and his Knights. He took out, well, he took out all of them, didn't he? He took out 5 games. But yeah, it's going to be, I wouldn't say it's going to be difficult because I've just been trying to work out what they actually do and how they do it. So it's a Unari 2,000 points. We've got the Warlock Skyrunners, Singing Spears. I'm not too sure. Skyrunners. Not too sure what they are. I want to say they're bikes, possibly. Quickening, Restrain, Seer, Cancel, Warlock. So that's like a psychic unit. And then we've got a Farseer, another psychic unit, a Shadow Seer, which is another psychic unit, and then the Incarn, which ignores invulnerable saves. So I'm not looking forward to trying to kill this 260 point model because it jumps around the board every time any unit dies and ignores invulnerable saves, doing 4 damage or something ridiculous in combat with like 9 attacks or something. So I'm not looking forward to trying to kill this thing. We've got 2 Rangers. I'm assuming that's because of a secondary midfield objective grabbing. They're obsec, so they're a bit of everything and anything. Then we got troops. These are the Harlequin troops. I don't think I've faced Harlequin troops in about 6 years, just because I'm not up at the top with the Harlequin meta, I suppose. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. So yeah, and I believe they can advance and charge as well. So they are going to be something to watch out for. Howling Banshees, Striking Scorpions, and a Warlock Skyrunner down here with Witchblade, another psychic unit. So the Howling Banshees, I believe, Mirror Sword Precision, Shrine Relics. So it's got a something like can't Overwatch against them. Howling Banshees, you can't Overwatch against them because they scream in your faces and you're like, scream and shaken. And they are also really fast. Striking Scorpions, they've got Chainsaw to believe with a bunch of attacks, so like 4 or 5 attacks a piece. Really, really scary little unit. We've got the Hellions, 2 units of 5 Hellions. I haven't played the Hellions in a long time. Oh, there's a big unit actually. It's like a 9 Hellion and then a 5 Hellion, Hellgrave, Hellspur, and then there's 8 and 4. Yeah, so this is like Drukari combat drugs, I believe. And they're the guys I want to say on like the goblins, sort of like flying flying board, jet board. So it's the Green Goblin's jet board essentially. And then the Swooping Hawks. I've played them before. The Swooping Hawks are the ones that can, you know, move, shoot with their flamer type weapons, D6 blast blasters. So they're going to be a nightmare to deal with, especially if they can jump and hide and then fly away. A Viper, Scat Laser. Haven't seen a Viper in years, so that'll be interesting. And then a Wave Serpent, which I'm assuming is where the Howling Banshees and the Striking Scorpions go. Yeah, possibly. You can imagine those two being in there and it coming down. But yeah, that's the list. Like I said, it won at the Oxford GT. Not 100% sure how I'm going to deal with that. So that'll be interesting. And this is the list that I told you about the changes. So yeah, you don't really need to be. I talked about changes anyway already. So that's the list that I've come up with. That's going to change the one I'm taking to the tournament. So this is the new list that I'm thinking about taking to the international team tournament. So yeah, that's the essentially what it is. It's exactly what I've said on the board. So I'm not going to go over it too much. Okay. Let's go and talk about the mission then that we're going to be facing. So the first mission is going to be Abandoned Sanctuary. It's going to be up against Clement and his Yunari. I know they're going to be fast. I know they've got some good secondaries. I know they're going to hit like a ton of bricks, but they are also, all his infantry are also very, very killy. Most of them have got a 5 pin von, so, and a T3 body. So as long as my gladiators can do their job, which is shoot them, the bodies should fall over relatively quickly. Even with, I think he might have a -1 to hit. He has a -1 he has a +1 hit strategy and a +1 wound strategy, and some other really, really cool nifty tricks that he can do as Eldar, as the Eldars do, as the Space Elves. He's got a lot of psychic units, so I'm worried a little bit about the mortal wound output that he could potentially do. But a lot of the psychic powers are to buff and debuff me, and I'm not too fussed about that because it's all about range, line of sights, and things like that. So with the amount of units that I've got in Deep Strike and coming in from reserve and all the other good stuff, I should be able to hold my own for at least 1 or 2 turns, which means it's going to come down to precision, speed, which he has over me, and concentration of fire. So that's the sort of ballpark of the game. I can't deploy No Man's Land. He can't do any pre-game moves, which Yunari have, into No Man's Land. I think he can pre-game move 3 units into reserve or move them into the board, but he can't pre-game move into the middle. So that's going to be massive for me as a gun line. The terrain, I've been told by friends who've been to the similar sort of events that are run at the same venue, are mostly ITC, UK ITC terrain. So I've got some experience at using that terrain. So hopefully that'll benefit me. And yeah, so hopefully that benefits us, and hopefully we can do something about it. So five objectives. There is data scribe in this game as well, and without the servitors pressing the button at the back, I think I might struggle with that as the last game. Data scribe, and there's a quarters one. I want to say it's not Tide of Conviction, Death and Zeal. So I think it's like Abandoned Sanctuary, Death and Zeal, and Data Scribe. So this is a very dynamic, a very tough RTT mission-wise. So I've got to play really, really well. I've already thought about my secondaries. He gives Assassinate away, but to get to those assassination points are very tricky. So I think it might be a trap to try and go for Assassinate. He's got a bunch of psychics as well, so that might be a border, which might not be a bad shout. But again, to get to his psychic units, which are all characters which are not going to be easy because they're going to be hidden. And then, I definitely want to take, in this probably mission, because of the characters he's got and the vehicle he's got, because he's got the Wave Serpent, he's got the Viper, he's got the Yunari, and a bunch of characters. Oath of Moments might not be a bad shout to take. My concern is he's a combat army and he wants me in the middle to charge. And it will all just be down to the terrain on the day if I take Oath of Moments. Behind enemy lines is definitely on the board still. So it'll be most likely Codex Warfare, behind enemy lines, and then the 3 choices to choose from is going to be Assassinate, Abhor the Witch, or Oath of Moments. Because of the mission, terrain, and units that he has in his army, those are my 3 third options, and that's all going to be done picking on the day, depending on how I feel and all the other good stuff that go with it. So hopefully we have a good game. That's a fingers crossed that we have a good game. We need a good game. And of course he won the last GT, so if I can knock him out turn one, hopefully there's a lot of Marine players. I had a look and I think, I don't even know, let me have a quick look again. Let's bring up how many players are going. We've got Hertfordshire, so it's the Hertfordshire RTT rosters of players. We've got 48. We've got 30 players. So we've got 29 because someone's dropped. So it's a big RTT player base. But when I was looking, like I said, if we look now, we've got Votan, Knights, Ironhand, Unari, Ultramarines, Chaos Demons, Knights, Chaos Knights, Knights Renegades. Don't know what they are. I'm assuming they're just free blade Knights. Emperor's Children, Thousand Suns, Votan, Iron Hands, Renegade Knights again, Drukhari, Space Wolves, Emperor's Children, Dark Angels, Genestealer Cult, which are amazing at the moment because of the Marine bodies are back. They are extremely good at killing Marines, the Genestealer Cults. Alpha Legion, myself as Imperial Fist, Drukhari, Orcs, going to be amazing. Chaos Marines, Space Wolves, Grey Knights, Blood Angels, Necrons, Ultramarines, Salamanders, Dark Angels. So out of the 30 players, it looks like, let's have a look. One, I'm going to count the ones that are not Marine bodies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 are not Marine bodies. 2 of those are Knights, 2 of those are Votan. Yeah. Or 3 are Knights, 3 are Renegade Knights, 2 are Votan. So it's like out of the 30, 20, well, over 50, 18 of them, 18, because I can count honestly, out of 30, 18 of them are Marine bodies. Woo! Okay. I'll leave it there anyway because it's getting late and I've got to go cook the dinner. But it's great chatting with you guys. I'll put this up as soon as possible. Thanks for listening. I wish us luck for the weekend, and I'll get you another report up how we did and where I want to change and how I've changed already. So take care and bye-bye.